in the summer of 1867 in a remote farming community near Sedalia, Missouri. The most disturbing medical case study ever documented in the American Midwest centered around an 8-year-old boy named Timothy Caldwell. Dr. Samuel Harding, the Regent's sole physician, filled 3 leather-bound journals with observations of a child whose behavior defied every principle of human nature, understood by 19th-century medicine, to casual observers. The boy seemed normal, even charming. But beneath his innocent exterior lurked something medical science at the time couldn't explain. Over 6 months, 3 people died in accidents near Timothy Caldwell, along with dozens of farm animals found dead under mysterious circumstances. 11 individuals, all of whom had crossed paths with the boy, met untimely ends, his pale blue eyes never reflecting the warmth of his smile. Local authorities sealed the official records, hiding them away for over a century. Yet the truth about Timothy Caldwell unveils a darkness that forces us to question everything we believe about the capacity for evil in childhood. Before we delve deeper into the terror that gripped Sedalia County, if this story intrigues you, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss our deep dives into America's darkest historical mysteries. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We love hearing from our global community of mystery enthusiasts. Timothy Caldwell's infamy began not with violence, but with loss. By 1867, Missouri was still bleeding from the wounds of the Civil War. Towns like Sedalia had sent their young men to die on distant battlefields, leaving behind widows, orphans, and shattered communities struggling to rebuild. The Caldwell farm, nestled in a valley 15 miles south of town, had once thrived. James and Martha Caldwell built their homestead with dreams of raising cattle and corn. But those dreams perished with James at the Battle of Wilson's Creek in 1861. Martha tried to keep the farm running alone, but consumption claimed her lungs. During the bitter winter of 1865, their son Thomas, barely 21, inherited land he couldn't work and debts he couldn't pay. When he learned his brother William had died at Andersonville prison, leaving behind a widow and an 8-year-old son, Thomas saw both a burden and an opportunity. The boy, Timothy, needed a home and Thomas needed help with the endless labor of farming. Thomas Caldwell had been hardened by war and loss. His wife, Sarah, had grown sharp-tongued and bitter during their childless years. Neither was suited to raising a child, especially one who arrived in the spring of 1866, carrying nothing but a small cloth bag and eyes, far too old for his young face. Timothy was small for his age, with pale skin that burned easily under the Missouri sun, and blonde hair kept short by Aunt Sarah to ward off lice. He spoke little of his past, offering only fragments when pressed. His father had been a soldier. His mother had coughed blood. After her death, he'd lived with neighbors for a time. What struck adults most was his politeness. He never failed with a yes sir or yes ma'am, never complained about work or punishment. By all appearances, he was the model of a well-behaved child. Dr. Samuel Harding first met Timothy in June 1866, when the boy accompanied his uncle to town for supplies. Harding, a graduate of the Missouri Medical College and one of the few formally trained physicians west of St. Louis, had honed a keen eye for reading people during his years treating Union and Confederate soldiers. Something about the Caldwell boy unsettled him, though he couldn't pinpoint what. The child was perfectly respectful. Harding later wrote in his journal, he answered questions directly, maintained appropriate eye contact, and showed none of the fidgeting or shyness typical of rural children meeting strangers. Yet I felt deeply uneasy in his presence. His gaze held an intensity, as if he were studying me with the same clinical detachment I reserved for my patients. The farming community around Sedalia was tight-knit, where everyone knew their neighbor's business. The Caldwell's isolation didn't stop people from noticing things. Eleanor Patterson, whose land bordered theirs, often saw Timothy working in the fields or tending livestock. She remarked to her husband that the boy labored with unnatural focus for his age, never tiring, never pausing to play or rest. It was like watching a little machine, she told Samuel one evening. He worked steadily from sunrise to sunset, never complaining, never slowing. Ain't natural for a boy to have no play in him at all. Eleanor also noticed her chickens grew agitated whenever Timothy neared the property line. They'd cluster together, squawking and ruffling feathers, refusing to approach the fence. Her husband dismissed it as coincidence. But Eleanor couldn't shake the feeling the animals sensed something humans missed. The first death struck on a sweltering August afternoon in 1866. 5-year-old Mary Fletcher, the blacksmith's daughter, known for her bright laugh and wandering spirit, had been playing near Willow Creek, which ran past several properties, including the Caldwell farm. Timothy found her body. He arrived at the Fletcher home just as supper was being prepared, his clothes damp, his face pale with what looked like genuine distress. "Mrs. Fletcher," he said, voice steady despite his agitation, "I found Mary by the creek. She's not breathing." The search party discovered Mary face down in water, barely 18 inches deep. Dr. Harding, summoned immediately, concluded she'd drowned, a tragic, but not uncommon accident in rural areas where children played unsupervised near water. What troubled Harding wasn't the death itself, but Timothy's account. The boy provided unnervingly precise details: the body's position, the way her dress caught on a submerged branch, even the color of the water around her face. When asked how he'd come to be there, Timothy explained he'd been searching for a lost calf. His recall was remarkably precise, Harding noted. Such attention to detail seemed unusual for a child claiming to be frightened and upset. Thomas Caldwell confirmed a calf had gone missing that morning and that he'd sent Timothy to search near the creek. The calf turned up 2 days later, healthy and grazing a mile from where Mary had drowned. The grieving Fletcher family thanked Timothy for alerting them. At the funeral, he sat quietly, head bowed in apparent respect. "I wish I could have found her sooner," he told Mary's father, his voice tinged with just the right note of sorrow. But Eleanor Patterson noticed something unsettling. While others wept Mary's mother collapsing in grief, grown men brought 2 tears by the small coffin. Timothy's expression never changed. His head was bowed, but when he thought no one was looking, his pale blue eyes remained dry and watchful, absorbing every detail. The second death came 3 weeks later. Henrik Larsson, a Norwegian immigrant and retired logger, was found at the base of Devil's Bluff, a rocky outcrop overlooking the creek where Mary had drowned. Known for climbing there to tend wild beehives, Henrik's neck had been broken in a 40-foot fall. Once again, Timothy was involved in the discovery. He'd been walking home from town when he spotted Henrik's hat caught on a thorn bush. "I called out, but got no answer," he told the gathering crowd. "So I climbed down to look." Dr. Harding noted an odd detail. Dead bees clustered around the body, far more than usual for a fall. "Henrik knew those bluffs better than anyone," Samuel Patterson said. "He'd climbed there for years without a single stumble. Doesn't make sense he'd fall now." Timothy suggested bees might have swarmed Henrik, causing him to lose his footing. He always said they get angry when disturbed. The boy offered. Harding found the explanation plausible, but something felt off. If Henrik had disturbed a hive, there should have been more bees along his path. Instead, they were concentrated at the impact site. When Harding inspected the hives atop the bluff, they showed no signs of disturbance. The third death shattered any illusion of coincidence. In September 1866, 6-year-old Jacob Mills vanished while playing in the woods. His body was found 4 days later in an abandoned well half a mile from where he was last seen. Timothy had joined the search party, guiding adults through terrain even longtime residents found difficult to navigate. When asked how he knew the area so well, he said he often explored the woods, gathering plants for his aunts, cooking and remedies. On the fourth day, Timothy arrived at the mill's cabin at dawn. "I think I found something," he told Jacob's father, voice heavy with exhaustion. "There's an old well north of here." I heard crying. The well was hidden under fallen logs and brush. Jacob was alive but barely conscious, dying hours after being pulled from the depths. The fact Timothy located him in such an obscure spot raises troubling questions. Harding wrote, "How extensive is his knowledge of the land? What other hidden dangers might he know?" More disturbing was Timothy's behavior during Jacob's final hours. While the family kept vigil, the boy sat in a corner, lips moving as if in prayer. But Harding, watching unnoticed, saw the truth. Timothy wasn't praying. His eyes were fixed on Jacob with clinical intensity, cataloging every detail of the dying child's condition. When Jacob finally passed, Timothy's expression showed no grief only, something akin to satisfaction. After the funeral, Harding visited the well. The debris around its rim wasn't random. It had been arranged deliberately, camouflaging the opening unless one knew exactly where to look. The implication was horrifying. Jacob hadn't simply fallen. Someone had placed him there and concealed the spot until rescue was impossible. That evening, Harding began documenting his suspicions. Timothy Caldwell appeared to be a model child, pellid, hard-working, devout, but beneath the surface lurked something far darker. If this story is chilling you, share it with a friend who loves dark mysteries. Hit like to support our content, and subscribe so you never miss tales like this. Let's uncover what happens next. Dr. Harding faced an impossible dilemma. The evidence suggested Timothy was a murderer, but proving it would be nearly impossible. The concept of a child killer was unthinkable in 1867. If he came forward, he'd be dismissed as a traumatized war doctor, seeing horrors where none existed. Instead, he decided to confront Timothy directly. During a visit to the Caldwell farm, he took the boy aside and revealed what he'd discovered. Timothy's reaction was chilling. He showed no fear, no denial, and laid calm acknowledgement. "You're not going to tell anyone," he said, not as a plea, but as a fact. "No one would believe you, and you're curious about what I'll do next." The boy was right. Harding was fascinated, despite himself. "How long have you been doing this?" Harding asked. "Since I was 5, Timothy replied. "Maybe earlier. Started with insects, then mice, then bigger things. The people who died, they were experiments too. I wanted to see if they'd react like animals. They do, mostly. But they understand what's happening. That makes it more interesting." Then Timothy revealed his next plan. "I need to see what happens when you hurt someone who trusts you completely. Someone who wouldn't suspect until it's too late." The meaning was clear. His aunt and uncle were next. Harding knew he had to act fast. That night, he went to Sheriff William Crawford, presenting the coded journals and patterns of death. Though skeptical at first, Crawford agreed to set a trap. The next morning, as Harding arrived at the farm, he sensed something was wrong. The usual farm sounds were absent, just an eerie silence. Timothy stood in the doorway, sleeves rolled up, hands scrubbed clean. "I've been waiting for you," he said, a glint of excitement in his pale eyes. Inside, Thomas and Sarah lay, unconscious, their breathing shallow. "Just some herbs from the woods," Timothy explained casually. "They won't wake for hours. That gives us time to talk." What followed was a horrifying confession. Timothy described drowning Mary Fletcher. "I held her down for 3 minutes. She fought harder than I expected. Luring Henrik Larsson to his death, I loosened the stones, then threw bees at his face, and Jacob Mill's slow demise. I visited him daily, giving just enough water to prolong it." Then Timothy revealed his plan for Harding. "You're different. You know what I am. That makes you the perfect subject. Will you try to save them? Will you fight me? Or will you run?" As Timothy moved toward his uncle with a rope, Harding intervened. The boy fought with shocking ferocity, slashing with hidden knives. Though smaller, he was fast, precise, every move calculated. Sheriff Crawford and his deputies burst in, subduing Timothy, but the boy remained eerily calm, smirking as they bound him. "You can't prove anything," he said. "No one will believe a child did this." Crawford glared. "Attempted murder is enough to lock you up, regardless of age." Timothy's smile widened. "You won't hang me. I'm too young, and too interesting. Someone will want to study me." Just when we thought the horror couldn't deepen, the truth about Timothy Caldwell takes an even darker turn. Share this video, hit like, and subscribe to uncover the shocking conclusion. Timothy was wrong about his fate but right about the impossibility of conviction. Prosecutors dismissed the cave drawings as a disturbed child's fantasies. The deaths were ruled coincidences. Only the attempted murder of his aunt and uncle held weight, but even that posed a legal quandary. An 8-year-old couldn't be tried as an adult. After weeks of debate, Timothy was sent to the Missouri State Hospital for the insane. Dr. Harding accompanied him, spending months documenting the boy's behavior. What he found was terrifying. Timothy had no remorse, only a chilling ability to mimic emotions, to manipulate his caretakers. "He understands happiness as the face people make when they want something to continue," Harding wrote, "and sadness as the face they make when they want help. But he feels neither." Behind the facade, Timothy was planning. He kept a coded journal, studying the hospital's weaknesses, manipulating guards into small concessions that, over time, created escape opportunities. In the summer of 1868, Timothy vanished. The official report claimed he slipped away during a transfer, but Harding suspected a meticulously planned breakout. In the years that followed, reports surfaced of similar deaths across the Midwest, staged accidents, animal mutilations, always with a strangely helpful child nearby. Timothy, now older and stronger, would be even more dangerous. The Caldwell farm was abandoned. The cave was sealed. Thomas and Sarah lived under false names, fearing Timothy's return. Harding spent his life tracking leads, his final journal entry warning, "If he survived, somewhere in America walks a man who understands human psychology better than any scientist, who manipulates with supernatural skill, and who sees people only as experiments. Evil can wear the face of innocence,